Well, good evening. Looks like we should start. It feels like we're pretty casual tonight. We're dressed with summer casual intent, and the audience looks happy, and we're chatting ahead of our meeting tonight. So welcome to tonight's regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth. Our meeting date is Monday, July 6th. I should have changed that in my notes. I guess I want to be in June still. I'm Mayor Todd Kasenberg, and I'll call the meeting to order. I'll ask the clerk to note our starting time for the minutes is 7 o'clock. Warm welcome and greetings are extended to councillors, staff, delegations, and observers who will participate in this meeting, regardless of whether they are physically in attendance in the council chamber in Listowel or being connected through web technologies. We begin tonight's meeting with the playing of O Canada, as is our custom. Those in chambers, as able, are invited to stand. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe peoples. We wish to recognize the long history of Indigenous peoples in Canada and show our respect to them today. We recognize their stewardship of the land. May we all live with respect on this land and in peace and friendship. It is my pleasure tonight, before we get rolling, to extend congratulations to a staff member who has recently completed a substantial program of study. With Council's indulgence, I will read excerpts from a letter I recently received pertaining to the recent graduation of our wonderful clerk, Lindsay Klein, with AMCTO's Executive Diploma in Municipal Management. As follows. On behalf of the Association of Municipal Managers, Clerks, and Treasurers of Ontario, or AMCTO, I am extremely pleased to announce that Lindsay Klein has successfully completed the intensive process to graduate from the Association's Executive Diploma in Municipal Management. We believe that this is a tremendous accomplishment and should be regarded with pride by your municipality. Founded in 1938, AMCTO is proud to be the largest municipal professional association in Ontario, with more than 2,200 members across the province. We have a mandate to provide high-quality education and professional development programs that foster municipal excellence in the province. The Executive Diploma in Municipal Management is a comprehensive career development program designed specifically for Ontario's municipal managers. Graduates of this program are informed leaders with a comprehensive understanding of the complex and interrelated components of municipal management. They can immediately implement their knowledge and make a positive impact on any municipal corporation. Lindsay has successfully completed the rigorous evaluation process to graduate from this diploma program. Yours truly, David Arbuckle, MPA, Executive Director. Colleagues, this warrants a round of applause. Okay. Best part of the meeting. All right, now, tonight's meeting is being streamed live on the Municipality of North Perth YouTube channel and will be available there after this meeting as an archived video. To those viewing the meeting via the YouTube channel, a warm welcome to you. To those present in the gallery today, by attending a public meeting of the Council, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded, and their voice, image, and comments will form part of the live stream. The chair and/or the clerk have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances when deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory, or potentially inappropriate to be published. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and/or unacceptable behavior and/or comments. Thank you. This time I invite, as always, your decorum over the course of the coming meeting. I do have regrets tonight, and you can see it in the attendance around the table from Deputy Mayor Doug Kellum, Councillor Sarah Blazek, and Councillor Matt Richardson. Let's move to item 5 on our agenda pertaining to pecuniary interest. Members of council have full lives with engagement in the community, and sometimes they may find themselves with a potential financial or pecuniary interest in an item at the council table. Provincial legislation mandates councillors to declare this interest, and in so doing, to avoid direct involvement in the consideration of or voting on the item. I invite any councillor with a perceived pecuniary interest, including those who have already so declared in writing, to verbally advise the chair in public session. Documentation is to be submitted, if not already done, pursuant to council procedures. Councillors may declare now or at any point in the meeting should such interest be recognized. Colleagues, do any of you wish to avail yourself of this opportunity? I see no expression of intent there. As chair of this meeting, then, I will manage the flow of proceedings tonight and largely in accord with our agenda and the rules of procedure. Some may be participating remotely by web conference. We know at least one of our consultants is tonight. Should they wish to speak, they may draw the attention of the clerk to this using the conference technology's text chat function. If technical difficulties arise for remote participants, I will advise, and we have Simon on duty tonight to help us troubleshoot any of those. Let us now focus on the people's business. Part of that focus is achieved when those in the chamber silence and put away their phones. Regarding item 6 on our agenda, I have a modified resolution for our consideration, and perhaps what I'll do is I'll call for the clerk to explain the amendment to the agenda. Clerk Klein.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. We are seeking Council's approval to amend the agenda to add item 8.1, a delegation from Scott Patterson regarding agenda item 9.3.1, application for consent B16-26.
Thank you. So I have a resolution for our consideration as follows: that the agenda for tonight's meeting be approved as amended to add item 8.1, a delegation from Scott Patterson regarding agenda item 9.3.1, application for consent B16-26. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Anstett, thank you. Councillor Johnston will be our seconder on this one. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And Councillor Andreessen records a manual in favor vote. That brings us to the total of 7, and that motion is then carried. Thank you. Let's move on then to item 7 on our agenda, the so-called consent agenda. Consent items are placed on our agenda because they're believed to be non-contentious, yet they may warrant council's recognition and or action. Grouping them does tend to expedite our business. However, any councillor wishing to extract an item or more items from the consent agenda for discussion, debate, and individual action may do so. There are 21 items on our agenda tonight, including the minutes of our last regular council meeting. Councillors, anything to extract here or any corrections to the minutes that you'd like seen made? Councillor Rothwell.
Good evening, Mayor Kaysenberg, members of council, staff, and public. Item 7.4, please, the Town of Whitby resolution regarding review of Ontario Land Tribunal and enhancing deference to municipal planning decisions, please.
Thank you. If someone didn't raise it, I was going to, so very good. Anyone else wishing to extract something from the agenda, the consent agenda? All right, let's turn the floor over to Councillor Rothwell.
Thanks, Mayor Kaysenberg and council. I'd just like to bring to the attention of item 7.4 found on pages 16 and 17 of our agenda package. Again, this is a municipality has raised concerns and is requesting the province to review the Ontario Land Tribunal's actions or procedures regarding having further consideration and enhanced deference to municipal planning decisions when there are appeals through to the Ontario Land Tribunal. We around this table have had conversations regarding the fact that there may be substantial municipal costs associated with defending our decisions before the Ontario Land Tribunal, and think that in fact the information which council depends on to make his decisions should frankly be the same decision or same information which the Ontario Land Tribunal in fact deals with the matter. No new information should frankly come forward at that time unless it was available through the council. So I would like council to consider supporting this resolution from the Town of Whitby regarding requesting a review of the Ontario Land Tribunal and enhancing deference to municipal planning decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rothwell. I'll consider that a motion. The intent is to express council's endorsement or agreement with item 7.4 on our consent agenda from the Town of Whitby, and to send copies of our correspondence to certainly our MPP, the Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs. Who else do we want to send this to? Certainly the County of Perth and other lower tier municipalities in the County of Perth. I don't know, do we need to send it to all other municipalities, or is your preference to?
If council believes that's appropriate, yes. That's fine. I think we've had the major players on that to express our support for the Town of Whitby. Thank you.
Okay. Might as well send it to everybody. Here's where we stand. All right. So moved by Councillor Rothwell. Can I call for a second? Or Councillor Andreessen? Thank you. Anyone with further comments, discussion, or debate on this motion? I'm pretty enthusiastic about this one. I just want my colleagues to know, you know, we've come to what I think is a pretty strange time in the lifespan of municipalities, where the will of local councils and the people of the community are pretty easily subverted by the appeals to the Ontario Land Tribunal. And you know, my own take is that the OLT cannot possibly have the kind of insight into our community that we have. And so for them to be looking to make decisions about this, about the matters that we have concerns about, I find frustrating at the very least. And so I'm pretty enthusiastic about this one. Anyone else with comments? All right, I'm not seeing any. If the clerks are ready, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Anything else before we consider the omnibus resolution for the consent agenda? All right, not seeing it. So as follows, that consent items 7.1 to 7.21 be received for information, and the minutes of the June 22nd, 2026 regular council meeting be adopted. Can I call for a move of Councillor Nordum? Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Duncan. Any discussion or debate? Not seeing any, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Let's move then to item 8 on our agenda. At this time, we'll receive a delegation from party with an interest in council's business or authority. Remind, as always, the delegation that in accordance with this council's procedural bylaw, a total time of 10 minutes of presentation is permitted, with a question period allowed to follow, the duration of which is at the discretion of the chair. Delegation is to present on the topic submitted with the request for delegation, and deviations from the topic are generally not acceptable to the chair or this council. Decorum, as always, is required and expected. I remind the delegate that they should not use the names of those who have not consented to such use. And our delegation tonight is from Scott Patterson, the Patterson Planning Consultants, who wishes to address council pertaining to item 9.3.1, an application for consent to sever. Mr. Patterson, you're always polite and respectful and know the rules really well, so welcome again.
Good evening, Council. Scott Patterson. Not appearing tonight as a planning consultant, here on behalf of my wife, who's the property owner for 740 Alma Street West. As most of you know, there's an expropriation going on at 925 Wallace Avenue North, which is my mother-in-law. So the purposes of this application is to create a lot for a new house to provide housing for her when she's forced out of her home. So I hope the council will support this application this evening, and if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Patterson. Colleagues, do you have questions for Mr. Patterson relating to item 9.3.1, which comes later? If something emerges, I think we'll give you some leeway and allow you to speak at that time. Great, thanks. All right. We have no public meetings scheduled for tonight, so that brings us to item 9 on our agenda. Let's first consider an item from the Corporate Services Department as item 9.1. In item 9.1.1, Council is presented with a draft of a new information technology master plan. I am beginning to hunch that when my mayorship is complete, I'll be called the master plan mayor. That's how it's starting to feel, actually. I'll call on Director of Corporate Services, Ashton Romani, to introduce the plan, give him consent to call any others he needs to support the effort so that council can gain understanding. Welcome, as always, Mr. Romani.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg, and good evening, members of council. So before you this evening is the 2026 to 2031 Information Technology Master Plan completed by Blackline Consulting. This work began in Q3 2025 and included staff engagement, a review of our current technology environment, and an assessment of future needs across the organization. The plan was originally expected to come forward earlier this year. However, the cybersecurity incident requires staff resources to be redirected, which delayed its completion. In many ways, that incident also reinforced the importance of having a clear organizational-wide technology roadmap. The report highlights several areas of focus, including the ERP replacement, cybersecurity, and AI governance. A number of these initiatives are already underway, particularly on the cybersecurity and AI governance fronts. I'll keep my remarks brief, as Abdel and Laura from Blackline Consulting are joining us virtually to walk you through the plan in more detail. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to them. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Ashton. Thank you, Mayor and Council. We'll set up to present if that's okay with you. Oh, perfect. Thank you. So as Ashton mentioned, in the latter part of last year and earlier this year, we were engaged with the municipality to develop a IT master plan. The staff were very welcoming and open as we engaged them through different modalities, be it interviews, focus groups, and even a walkthrough to see how what your current state is like, what's working well, what isn't.
Can you hold for 1 second? We're having some difficulty with the volume in the chamber of your speaking, so we're going to ask the clerk to see if they can intervene and raise the volume. I have a few councillors pointing at their ears to me.
Okay.
Hang on.
And I will try and speak louder.
Okay, that's better. Thank you. We've got it under control here. Thank you. Continue.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll move on to the next page. So before we go into the pillars of our the IT master plan that we developed for the municipality, there were some influencing external factors that we wanted to make sure we considered in our development. The first is ERP migration. The municipality has outgrown its current solution, and it's time for it to transform to a new one. And that is not a small undertaking, and it is also not unique to the municipality. A lot of municipalities are also moving to new ERP solutions for varying reasons, but that's a factor that we have to consider in developing this IT master plan. The second is the shift to cloud first. So this is a movement that's happening across municipalities and organizations in general as a whole. It comes with increased costs to the service providers. However, it reduces the cost of the infrastructure that you need to have to support on-premise systems. We find recurringly the theme is that this makes things easier on the municipalities. You won't have to worry about upgrading your servers, them going out of date. It just simplifies things in a whole manner of ways. Next to the cyber incident, I won't speak too much to this. It's public knowledge. Most municipalities are expediting their approach to strengthening their cybersecurity posture because the people that are attacking municipalities are getting more sophisticated about it. And so it's important for the municipality to take heed of that. And given the incident that you've experienced, it increases the need for that even more so. And the last is resident expectations. As we're seeing across all municipalities, including this one from our conversations with staff, residents and businesses, visitors, they're expecting the municipality to provide more immediate, convenient, and digital-first experiences. So that's something else that was important to us as we developed the plan for the future. So 3 strategic priorities came out of this initiative. The first is to position IT as a strategic partner. Often we see, and we've seen this and observed this with this municipality, IT is seen as a come help us when things are broken. As we look towards the future, as we want to modernize the organization, IT needs to be a partner. It needs to be involved early on in decisions that are with respect to procuring technology and implementing the technology. It needs to be seen as an enabler of modernization as opposed to a barrier or just seen as a come help me when I need you. So there will be several recommendations under each of these pillars that we'll go into in a moment. Enable more modern integrated technologies. Again, not unique to the municipality, but some areas you have the solutions we'd expect you to have. Other areas, not so much. But as is common with municipalities, oftentimes these systems don't speak to each other, and so there's lots of manual steps and workarounds that take up valuable staff time. So you'll see that some of the recommendations are about modernizing the systems that you already have and allowing for a more digital experience for staff, for residents, and just more efficient services overall. And the last pillar is, again, tied to cybersecurity, is to foster a resilient technology environment. So you've already done lots in that regard, and we'll speak to that in a moment with what you can do further to improve your cybersecurity posture.
So as we move on to our strategic priorities, again, my name is Laura, and I can't express enough gratitude to your staff and senior leadership team for supporting this engagement with us. So as Abdul was mentioning, we believe that IT should be a strategic partner to support departments as they change the business. One of the first pillars that we have was formalizing IT governance. So we feel it's beneficial to reestablish the IT steering committee, as you've had one before, made up of different leaders from the municipality. This group will oversee this entire IT master plan and its implementation, as well as expanding their role in technology procurement, such as supporting departments with the technologies that they need, as well as the municipality's strategic plan. They'll also advise on different risks and controls for implementing technology projects, as well as report all their findings to senior leadership. So you'll understand I'll have a few references to this IT steering committee as we go through some of the recommendations. Supporting that is enhancing technology project delivery. So as you know, there are several projects coming down the pipeline, and we've drawn up a mock-up of a sample organizational chart, if you could say, where you need people to be dedicated to this project. You can't be doing it off of the side of your desk. That's how projects fall off, go over time, go over budget. So having a dedicated team, change managers, this IT steering committee will all help to complete the projects on time. One more thing is to formalize service management. So the goal with this is to improve transparency for IT to become a partner with staff. This will strengthen communications between and formalize that partnership between different staff members, departments, as now staff might have a way to go self-service with self-service, changing their password. One of the recommendations was for IT to implement some sort of ticketing system so people can see where their requests are at, what IT can do for them. IT will manage and respond to tickets and then deliver those results to both the IT steering committee, who will then report to council. The second pillar we had was enable modern and integrated technologies. So one of the things we found at the municipality was there was no comprehensive inventory. So to the right here, we've got a nice application inventory. I wouldn't look too far into it, but Abdul and I went into each department and looked at each system to see if it was meeting your needs or if it was in need of modernization. So this is the starting point for yourselves as council and for IT to assign ownership and to know what systems the municipality has. Once you've completed filling out what systems that you know you need, then begin to create that modernization roadmap, with the starting point being the migration to a new ERP. And I know the municipality has also been undertaking a records management system. This roadmap will dictate what systems are replaced and when, as some will need to be implemented in sequential order. This will also be overseen by that IT steering committee, so that the steering committee will have input on what systems the municipality should select. And another thing, when you're selecting your ERP, as many municipalities are these days, be very, very purposeful. So prepare before going to market, prepare before going to that implementation. An ERP is often the core to success at any municipality: financial operations, how departments interact with one another. So ensuring that you're prepared, knowing what systems that you want to keep and what systems that will become obsolete once you adopt this new ERP will be core to influencing long-term success. To the right are some initial considerations when thinking about that ERP. How will you migrate data? Which data will you keep? What are your needs for integration? What requirements are mandatory for the municipality? What will you modernize? What processes will you keep? The second, or the last point for our modern integrated technologies is, as you may know, a quick win at the municipality would be creating an AI policy, establishing clear guidelines for safe and effective use, and making sure AI is a tool that will help progress and modernize the municipality instead of possibly having some non-ethical uses, and ensuring that it's used as a tool for success. Lastly, we have got it's unfortunately mislabeled, but for strengthening cybersecurity, as to the right here, we've got creating a strong and resilient network. So as you know, the municipality acted fast against the recent attack. So, and they're progressing well based on what was found in the CIS 18 audit. One of our recommendations right now is to create a roadmap of what's next to continue to mediate those gaps. Something that we've included is in continuing to invest in cyber readiness at the municipality and continuing to have that as a priority, as well as implementing some staff awareness programs and creating standards that any new applications inside of the new ERP, any new business softwares, cybersecurity standards that these must meet. And lastly, we have establishing governance for any data or any disaster recovery. So we've worked closely with Eric from IT to see what the backup and recovery situation was like at the municipality. Currently, you've got a cloud-based backup solution. Continue to work well with that. This having that cloud-based recovery solution will help get the municipality back up on its feet if anything were to happen. So in terms of establishing governance, that includes determining procedures and roles, possibly establishing time and recovery recovery objectives so that you know what to expect in case of any fail-safe, sorry, and then conduct scenario-based testing annually. I know that's something the municipality has been undertaking recently, so continuing to do that year over year to ensure that everybody at the municipality knows what they need to do and when. You'll have this also in the package from the IT master plan, but we also have initiatives spanning a 5-year time frame. So you can see here there's quite a bit loading up front, but some of these are the quick wins, establishing that AI policy. You know that already right now the municipality is taking a look at ERP, so just determining what to consider for that, as well as modernizing core business systems is one that I know Eric and Ashton are already working on. These initiatives will span a 5-year plan. You can see that some of them will occur every year or every half year, which just denotes a review maybe of policy or a continued review of systems and software. We are happy to take any questions from any councillors or on this IT master plan. But once again, thank you very much for having us here to present it and allowing us to help partner in creating your IT master plan.
Thank you very much. Mr. Romani, did you want to wrap up with any comments?
No, nothing further to add.
Nothing further to add. Colleagues, questions, first comments? Councillor Rothwell, looked like you were going to wave your hand.
Good. Thanks very much, Mayor Kaysenberg, and thanks very much, Ashton and Eric, as well as our consultants from Blackline, Laura and Abdel. My question deals with the issue of cloud-based storage. And it's been discussed many times in the past about data sovereignty and that sort of thing in terms of where the data actually resides. And usually it was concerns about other jurisdictions, whether United States or elsewhere, and whether or not the data, our data for the municipality of North Perth is safeguarded under Canadian law versus the laws resident for where the servers are for the cloud-based. So this goes way beyond my standard wheelhouse, but I just know back in the day when I was working, when cloud-based storage started coming forward, this was an issue of concern. And frankly, with everything that's happened most recently with the United States of America, I think we better be careful in terms of where our data is stored. Thank you.
Through Mayor Kaysenberg, I'll say as far as our Microsoft solution, we can assure you that with respect to the package we have, the data does reside in Canada, and particularly with our backups, that's separate outside of Microsoft as well. They are a Canadian vendor, and their data centers are within Canada. So we do, when we look at prospective agreements, either cloud-based solutions or any other kind of expansions with softwares, we do look for that data residency within Canada.
Good. Thank you very much. I knew it was probably going to be on your checklist, but I just needed to ask it. Thank you.
Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ashton and team, for this. Just a question on the IT steering committee. We used to have one. What was our makeup then in the past, and what were you looking for a makeup in the future?
Ashton, I see that you're gesturing to someone, so I'm not sure if you want me to answer, but I'm happy to jump in and provide my thoughts on this.
I'll let CEO Snell to speak to the previous, as it wasn't during my tenure, but we can definitely talk about looking forward afterwards.
So we did have an IT master plan. I would say early on it functioned adequately, but I would say it didn't have great governance structure around it at the start, which I think is a lesson learned. And frankly, one of the things that broke down right at the start of COVID. So COVID threw a wrench into the evolution of the committee, but certainly now is a chance to revise it with a bit more governance structure.
So if I might add in terms of what will make it work better this time around, I've observed this with other municipalities where the IT steering committee is highly technical. It's not well structured. Oftentimes there isn't even an agenda. It ends up being just another meeting, just another hour wasted from everybody's time. So part of our recommendations is we've established a framework for what you should include in the agenda, who you should include in the steering committee, and they are just options. It doesn't have to be based on what we've put forward there. But one of the things that we try to emphasize is it cannot just be technical. It has to have representation from business units. We recommended that not all business units have to be there all the time, but some core ones are, finance as an example, and others can parachute in, as if I can use that phrasing.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? I have a question that may extend just beyond the limits of the plan, but I just want to sort of ask the question and see if there's any comment at this point. Certainly one of the great challenges of organizations these days is knowledge management. And there's a proliferation of information. A lot of it can be documented, but a whole lot of it resides in people's heads. And that represents a risk to the organization in terms of continuity. Should a person choose to leave or leave due to retirement or whatever. So I'm wondering whether we need to address in our IT thinking how we are going to manage that kind of knowledge within the organization so that the organization remains resilient.
Yeah. Through your Mayor Kaysenberg, I know one of the major things, particularly in the corporate services area, looking at the ERP, we are going through our business processes and documenting them in much more detail than we've had before. And the primary reason of that is a dual benefit, is to understand how we operate, because when we look at the new software solution in the future, it's not going to be a like for like. We need to understand what we do before we migrate to a new solution, because we're going to change our business processes along with it. But with that documentation, having it down on paper, we're kind of keeping that resilience in that lens of things as well. Our records management solution, as we begin to migrate our data into the SharePoint environment, with the evolution of AI and the way we're able to leverage our corporate data, it'll be much more accessible than it has in the past. But going to, again, maybe a little bit more what you're pointing towards with respect to that institutional knowledge with individuals as well, I can certainly tune to the fact that we're very mindful of that, and obviously with recent turnover, documentation in that lens of things is certainly ongoing.
As someone who was in a position that was turned over, Ms. Little looks like she has an intent to speak, so we'll call on her to do so.
Yes, just in response to your question, Mayor, we're certainly looking at this across the municipality. We're so fortunate to have some really great people on our senior management team now, but we're learning that having this new knowledge around the table, we want to make sure that we are documenting the institutional knowledge that many currently have, and how do we ensure that in terms of succession planning. So we're working on this across the board, including with corporate services as well as HR as well. We're looking at, in terms of, obviously we have a brand new director of environmental services, so we're taking advantage of that opportunity in terms of what are the anticipated timelines for each of these roles kind of across the board. So that's something that we'll be rolling out through HR and with the assistance of Kelly Fraser, our current director of HR. So we're looking at it across the board right now.
That's good. Just want to make sure that as we think about IT investments, that we have the money there necessary, should it be necessary to accomplish that purpose. All right. One more question to the organization. It seemed to me a few years ago when we instituted our first IT master plan that we had begun to move money into a sort of dedicated plan and allocate money from taxpayer dollars for the purposes of improving our IT infrastructure and capacity. How have we done with that, and what do we need to do next?
So through your Mayor Kaysenberg, that's an excellent question. As council can remember from a couple of years ago, I introduced a new reserve fund bylaw that consolidated a lot of old reserves into one, particularly for the IT front. That was consolidated under the General Administration Reserve. So that's pretty much between the Office of the CAO and corporate services blended between there. So there is roughly, I believe, if we're pulling a number up, I believe $2 million in there. Now that serves not just IT, it serves finance, legislative services, Office of CAO. But there is a provision currently in the IT budget, I believe it's around $70,000 a year that goes into reserves that will that puts money away for the ERP replacement as an example amongst all the other IT-related infrastructure. So I would say at this point in time, and the evolution of the cloud, as you heard earlier on, our costs with respect to upfront capital will decrease, but we will kind of see a little incremental increase with respect to our yearly operating cost. But at this point in time, I would say from just that lens of things with IT infrastructure, I would say we're in good hands at this point in time.
That's good news. I think when we, and I think it was before this council, the previous council, when we first had to confront the issue of our IT future, we were fairly ambitious in terms of setting aside some money to make sure that we could keep up and advance with the times. So it's good to hear that there's a positive assessment of where we're sitting at this point in time. Thank you. Anyone else with questions or comments? All right, I have a resolution then for our consideration as follows. The Council of the Municipality of North Perth adopts the 2026 to 2031 IT Master Plan. Moved by Councillor Rothwell, seconded by Councillor Edstedt. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is unanimously carried. Again, appreciation to the consultants from Blackline for joining us and working with us. Appreciation to our staff, as always, for their dedication and for the hospitality they granted to the consultants as well. And let's keep forging ahead, I think is the message on this one. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, next up we have an item from the Infrastructure Services Department, item 9.2 of our agenda. For item 9.2.1, Council is invited to invoke several actions under Section 78 of the Drainage Act that will improve drains in Elmet Township. Call on Drainage Superintendent Scott Richardson to present the justification for these actions. Welcome, Mr. Richardson, as always.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Yeah, we have 6 drains here to deal with tonight. I guess we'll start with the Logan Maitland. Previous report for the Logan Maitland was prepared by Paul Elston of Spree Engineering under bylaw 85.7. Most recently, the municipality completed a relocation on a portion of the top end of the drain designed by Spreetz in 2021. A request for Section 78.5 of the Drainage Act was received on February the 2nd of this year. The request is for realigning approximately 1,250 meters of the existing drain to run the lot lines of the property and eliminate the need for a culvert crossing and square up the fields. The owners will be responsible for the costs associated with this improvement. And then the second part of this one is the English drain. As part of this, that currently outlets into the Logan Maitland drain, right at the portion that's being relocated. Therefore, this drain will, under Section 78, need to be extended. The Pfeiffer drain was originally built in 1970 through a report prepared by James Howes under bylaw 108-70. With the age of the drain, a full rebuild is the most practical approach. This improvement would increase the drain to a minimum of 1.5 inch drain coefficient. The owners will be responsible for the costs associated with this improvement. The third one would be the English drain. The English drain, a previous report was prepared by W.G. McGeorge in 1950 under bylaw 263. In 2020, GM Blue Plan prepared a report to enclose 200 meters of the top end of the drain. An on-site meeting was held with the owners along the Hannah drain, and the consensus of that from that meeting was to relocate the Hannah drain to the lot lines, and it was permitted by the Department of Fisheries and Oceans to complete that task. This would also shorten the English drain by approximately 150 meters. Dutch Dream Farms indicated that it would be beneficial to enclose the rest of the English drain if the permits could be obtained by the Department of Fisheries and the conservation authorities. Enclosing the drain would eliminate again a culvert crossing and square up the lands. Following the on-site meeting, Section 78 was received by the municipality on June the 5th. The request is for approximately 875 meters of open channel and will install a tile drain instead. The owner will be responsible for all the costs of this improvement. And the fourth drain would be the McCourt Branch A. A report was previously done for McCourt Branch A, and it was prepared by James A. Howes in 1968 under bylaw 75-69. A request for a section 78 of the Drainage Act was received on June the 4th of this year to enclose 730 meters of open drain and install another tile drain. This would again square up the property and make it easier to crop. The owners again would be, they'd be responsible for the costs associated with this improvement. Number 5, the Hollitz drain. And a previous report for the Hollitz drain was prepared again by James Howes, 1967, under bylaw 917. A request under section 78 was received on June the 10th to enclose a drain and install a tile drain. So we're enclosing the open drain and installing a tile drain. Through the properties, this would eliminate culvert crossings and improve farm practice. The owners on the request again are responsible for all the costs related to the enclosure. The municipality will be responsible for the costs associated with one road crossing as part of this project. The land and drain, a previous report for the land and drain was prepared again by James Howes. He's a busy guy, eh? Under bylaw 54-69. A request under 78 was received on June the 4th to rebuild the drain from the outlet at the Gilkinson to just south of line 72. This improvement would increase the drain capacity to 1.5 inch drain coefficient, and the owners in the watershed would be responsible for those costs. And again, the Hollitz crossing, just to touch base on that again, that would be, out of the 6 drains, would be the only financial obligation to the municipality. Questions?
We are there.
It's a long
You
one.
are a busy boy, I tell you, you're a busy boy. All right, thank you for your report, Mr. Richardson. Colleagues, questions, comments before we consider the resolution? Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Scott, for all of these drains. The ones that are being closed in, they'll be sized sufficiently to take more water than the open ditches are taking now, won't they? Or at least as much? Or they'll be sized appropriately?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So AMAFRA pays 1/3 grant up to 1.5 inch drain coefficient, okay? Open ditches do take more water. They're designed to like a 5-year event, right? Guys, you're a farmer, you know you don't like planting around them, and it is easier just to get rid of them if the DFO permits those kinds of activities. So yeah, 1.5 inches. Some guys go up to 2 inch, but if you go that extra 1/2 inch, it's not grantable by the province.
Okay, anyone else with questions or comments? Councillor Rothwell.
Thanks, Mayor Todd, and thanks very much, Scott, for your report. Some municipalities might have 5 or 6 drains in their entire year, and we've got 6 here tonight. How are we stacking up in terms of our number of applications under section 78 and others in terms of the workload here? And is this sort of a foretaste of things to come because of the age of some of our drains? Is this what's happening, or what? I'm just looking forward in terms of our staff workload and you know, the issues to come in terms of drainage matters here within North Perth. Thank you.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, absolutely. We're repairing drains from the 70s and prior to that. I think with the drain events that we get nowadays, they're pretty intense. They come pretty quick, and guys just want to get this, you know, the water off the field as fast as they can. So it's funny you mentioned about, you know, as active as we have been. You know, talking to Spreets and that, we're probably one of the most active in the province right now, aside from like Chatham, Kent, but they have 6 drainage superintendents too. So yeah, we do all right here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, CAO Snell wants to weigh in.
Just from my experience too, having worked in other previous municipalities, they did a lot more drain work previously. And when I arrived at North Perth a few years ago, I was surprised by the lack of drains that were being done. But I think part of it is just the evolution of our farm economy. We were largely a pasture because of our dairy and influences. Now, of course, a lot of that farmland has been converted from pasture land to cash crop, and therefore drainage is a lot more important under cash crop circumstances. So I think a lot of our drains that weren't necessarily as important when we were having so much pasture field have now become immensely important to the farming community when they're cash cropping.
I like that we're on top of it. All right, Councillor Johnston, then Councillor Nordum.
That's what I was just gonna comment on. I think that's why we're seeing these drains closed in too, because of the size of today's equipment. If you have a 5-acre field, it can be awful hard to even turn equipment around in that. And that $40,000 to $45,000 per acre, you gain an acre. It doesn't take long for a payback on that. So I think it's got to be the economics of the agriculture in our area is why we're seeing so much of this.
And to further that, Dave, is the land values, what they've increased their, upwards of $40,000 to $50,000 in this area too. So if you can cover a drain in and it crosses a couple, 150 acre field, there's a few acres there that you could regain or recoup. So yeah, if it's permitted, I think it's the best option.
Thank you, Councillor Nordum.
Thanks, Mayor Kaseberg, and through you, thanks for the report, Scott. So on the Lennon drain, that's the one by Donegal, will there be a fair bit of cost for the residents in Donegal there too? Just curious on that one. We're not big into the cost just quite yet, but just curious at this point.
Through you, Mayor Todd, the costs with residential properties don't ever get very high. They aren't eligible for grant. That's one of the misses with being involved with municipal drain in an urban center. But yeah, like I say, when we get there, now the top end of that drain was rebuilt in 2008, I think. It goes on the north side of the road, so there won't be any activity done there. So I don't anticipate a huge assessment to the residents.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, I get to read a whole bunch of names here. Lucky me. Here we go. As the resolution is as follows, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth proceeds in accordance with Section 78 of the Drainage Act for minor improvement of the Logan-Maitland Drain and major improvement for the Pfeiffer, Inglis, McCourt A Branch, Hollitz, and Lannon municipal drains. And that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth appoints Spreet Associates to investigate, design, and prepare a report for the Logan-Maitland, Pfeiffer, Inglis, McCourt A Branch, and Hollitz municipal drains. And that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth appoints Streamline Engineering to investigate and prepare a report for the Lannon municipal drain. Can I call for a mover? Moved by Councillor Duncan, seconded by Councillor Rothwell. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Keep busy, keep well. All right, next up are items from the Planning and Protective Services Department as item 9.3 on our agenda. In item 9.3.1, Council is invited to consider giving advice to the county as the planning authority on an application for consent to sever a lot from an existing lot in the Listowel Ward located on Elma Street West in Listowel. The intention is to create 2 residential lots of future development. Call on Nathan Garland, our planner with the County of Perth, to walk us through this report. As always, Mr. Garland, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg and members of North Perth Council. I'm here to present application B1626. The owner is Jenna Patterson, and the applicant is Scott Patterson. The location, as noted, is West Part Block C, Listowel Ward, Municipality of North Perth, and the municipal address is 740 Alma Street West. The property is outlined on your screen in yellow with the red star inside of it. The request is for a severance of the property. It's a fairly large property. The applicants are looking to sever the property to create 2 lots. Just for the facilitation, one would facilitate a future fourplex consideration, so it would be sized for a potential fourplex. The one to the south would be the retained lots. That's for a proposed single-family dwelling or a single residential dwelling. So the proposed severance would allow for the consideration of 2 future dwelling or several dwelling units on the subject lands. There's just an image of what the proposal is. So the one proposed fourplex just showing the parking off of Hay Street, and then there's the proposed single to the south also. Just an outline of the property. There is no current plans in place or anything, just an outline of the proposed area for development. A couple of pictures from Hay, looking just to the east. The current buildings have been removed from the property, so they are currently vacant. There is no structures on the property, so the existing house and the existing accessory structures have been removed. Several of the trees have been retained. With respect to comments coming in, no comments or concerns have been expressed by any staff or any of the public. One neighbor did just call in with a request to some information on the sketch, and so that was provided, but they didn't have any additional follow-up or concerns or comments. With respect to planning policies, the application does meet the PPS and the official plan policies in the County of Perth. It does encourage intensification and some infill development. Municipal services, both water and sewer, are available. And it should be noted also that the proposed lands will meet the Municipality of North Perth zoning bylaw, so there is not a zoning bylaw requirement as an outcome of this severance. So they would be cleared for development subject to approval. Therefore, it is staff's recommendation that North Perth Council support severance application B16 2026. I'm happy to address or answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Garland. Colleagues, questions, first comments? I'm not seeing any, so let's have a look at the resolution then. As follows, the Council of the Municipality of North Perth advises the Land Division Committee or its delegated authority that the Municipality of North Perth supports application file B16-26 submitted by Scott Patterson on behalf of Jenna Patterson affecting lands described as part of Lot C, RP 185, List Award, Municipality of North Perth, subject to the following conditions. There are 4 for North Perth, and there are 2 from what I'm counting from the County of Perth. Can I call for a mover? Moved by Councillor Duncan, seconded by Councillor Johnston. Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. Councillor Andreessen records a manual in favor vote, and with that, we have the number allotted. That motion is carried. Thank you. Next up then is item 9.3.2. This is another request for support for an application for consent to sever, again in the Listowel ward, this time on Anger Street East in Listowel. The intention is to merge a larger lot with a smaller piece. Mr. Garland can explain all this to us. And the retained lot already does have a home on it. So Mr. Garland, you're back with us. Tell us this story.
Thank you, Mayor Kaysenberg, members of North Perth Council. I'm here with a presentation on B1726. The owners are Amy Hamilton and James McDonald, and the agent is MTE Ontario Land Surveyors. The location, as noted, is lots 30 and lots 130 and 133 in the Listowel ward, and the municipal address is 680 Wallace Avenue South. So just to note that the current property does come off Wallace Avenue, but this will be merged onto a property fronting Anger. So we'll just flip around and I'll walk you through that in just one moment. So the request is to sever the lands, the divide. So the retained lands does have a single-family dwelling on the property currently, so it is there. The proposed severed lot does have some outbuildings. Those would be relocated as a condition of this. It does abut the unopened portion of Wellington Avenue, so that portion of Wellington Avenue is not open. So one of the requirements for this consideration is that the lands do merge onto Anger Street to facilitate the construction of a future dwelling units on the property. So there's just an outline of the proposed severed, retained, and enlarged property. So the enlarged property will result in the merger of the, I'll say, the bluish outline with the yellow property. So that will result in the larger property being merged. And then the retained property still does have that single family dwelling on the property also. Once again, the property would front then onto Anger Street with services and access coming off of that way, as they're not able to get access off of an improved Wellington Street. Just a couple of pictures. So one of the retained lands is showing the house that's there right now. So there is a driveway accessing back. That's just a picture from Anger Street looking at that actually existing vacant property also. So that would merge through there. There is a property to the north also that has a accessory structure on the property. Staff did have some concerns and comments expressed by one of the neighbors. Currently, the property does slope back towards that municipal drain at the north end there, so there has been some concerns expressed by one of the neighbors on the drainage aspect of it. Staff have recommended that the inclusion of a provision that legal outlet be provided. So this would retain the appropriate measures for them to make sure that they can adequately outlet their stormwater or any kind of water created on the site to an appropriate and legal outlet. That would be done by an Ontario land surveyor or professional engineer. Typically, that's a requirement as part of an application. This is also a requirement as they are realigning it to not say front onto Wellington Street. They are redirecting it back onto Anger, so this does redirect it towards that legal outlet for Anger Street. Or they would have to provide an alternative solution for that accepted to the building department or Public Works. The proposed application meets the PPS and the official plan policies. Once again, encourages intensification and infilling. Municipal services are available. And then there has been a condition noted on the proposed severance application that legal outlet be required, as well as a rezoning application. As the subject lands are currently zoned future development, so they would have to rezone it to an R4 and R5 to facilitate a future development plan. Therefore, it is staff's recommendation that North Perth Council supports severance application B17 2026. I'm happy to address or answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Garland. Colleagues, questions or first comments? Councillor Rothwell.
Thanks, Mayor Kiesenberg. Thanks very much for your report, Nathan. Can we just slide back to the report photo for a moment so that shows the, thank you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the area that's outlined in the light green, was that subject to a previous severance last year or earlier this year, correct?
Through the mayor, yes, that was subject to a previous severance, yes.
So just further, if I may, so again, it was originally created as a lot. It was met minimum standards and so on. So the opportunity now is to enlarge that lot that was recently created with the yellow, correct?
Yes, through the mayor, that's correct.
Okay, fair enough. And then my last point, if I may. So Wellington, I think it is, the road allowance that's unopened. What is our staff, have we had any conversation in terms of long-term desire to see that road allowance be retained, or are we potentially looking at a lot of addition or availability for an abutting property owner to acquire some of it? I just know some of a fair bit of the history of this, and this has been an ongoing issue of concern. And as well as the drainage, so I'm quite aware.
I think we'll call on CAOs now.
So as Councillor Rothwell is correct, there has been ongoing discussions around the Wellington Street road allowance. Part of it is still owned by the developer of that subdivision, so that's why it looks like there's two lots there. I don't know the exact history of why it wasn't conveyed to the municipality at the time, but so the municipality only owns that little sliver, and we have had numerous conversations over the years about whether it needs to be reopened or opened, but until these two lots were cleared up, we were reluctant to do anything, so that conversation may come up again.
Fair enough. And on that basis, I'm quite satisfied staff is aware, and hopefully we can get some resolution with this, especially with the property owner to the east. But certainly I'm in favor of what is being proposed in this application. Thank you.
Great. Anyone else with comments? Councillor Johnston.
Nathan, condition number 4 that deals with the lot grading and the drainage, that will deal with the drainage, in your opinion?
Through the mayor, it would address, drainage is dealt with through the building permit process typically. That results in positive drainage outlet, access. This really kind of does that precursor step to make sure that they have appropriate and adequate legal outlet as a realignment. And as it right now, it accesses that unopened portion of Wellington Street. They would be looking to say redirect it or re-access that portion of Anger Street. So that's where there's a little bit of rejigging, but this would address that concern or that comment to say, ensure that it's been appropriately established.
Okay, anyone else? All right, I have a resolution then for our consideration as follows. that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth advises the Land Division Committee or its delegated authority that the Municipality of North Perth supports application file B17-26 submitted by MTE Ontario Land Surveyors on behalf of James McDonald and Amy Hamilton, affecting lands described as Lot 130 and 133, RP 183, List Award, Municipality of North Perth, subject to the following conditions. There are 7 in the report that are explicitly included from North Perth and 4 in the report explicitly included from Perth County. Can I call for a mover? Moved by Councillor Andreessen, seconded by Councillor Duncan. Thank you. Any further discussion or debate? All right, looks like we're ready for the vote. Let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Garland, as always. That means we can move to item 10 on our agenda. Does any member of council wish the consent of council for a report from staff or from one of our committees? I'm not seeing that. As item 11 on our agenda, we've received a request for an exemption from the noise bylaw for Party Zacharias pertaining to a wedding event on a private lot on line 86 in North Perth. Are there any objections to considering a resolution to grant this boon? I'm not seeing any objections, so I have a resolution that staff has prepared kindly as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves the request from Jordan Zacharias for a temporary exemption from the timing provisions of the noise bylaw to permit a private event at 990 Perth County Line 86, List Wolf, from 4 p.m. on Saturday, July 25th until 1 a.m. on Sunday, July 26th, 2026, and that staff be directed to advise relevant parties of this exemption. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Anstett, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Duncan. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. It's going to be a good party. Let's move on then to item 12 on our agenda. We turn to consideration of one bylaw tonight that's been recommended to us for action. We do have, as usual, an enabling resolution. Does anyone have, you know what, let's move forward with the resolution, and then if anyone has concerns, we deal with them. As follows, that the following bylaw is hereby passed. 50-2026 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 6-ZB-1999 as amended. Can I call for a mover? Moved by Councillor Nordum, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Andreessen. Any discussion or debate? Councillor Rothwell.
Thanks, Mayor Todd. My understanding, this is the implementing zoning bylaw for the planned subdivision in Atwood, and that subdivision was just recently approved by Perth County Council. Is that correct? Fair enough. Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else with questions, concerns before we consider the resolution? All right, I think we're ready for the vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Right. That moves us to item 13 on our agenda. And tonight we do have an opportunity to consider a motion brought to the table for this meeting by Councillor Matt Duncan. Let me read it into the record first before calling on Councillor Duncan to offer a few words, of course, presuming it is duly moved and seconded. So as follows. Whereas the Municipality of North Perth enacted bylaw number 120-2025, being a bylaw to provide for various fees and charges for the Municipality of North Perth effective January 1st, 2026, and whereas Schedule B, Development and Protective Services fees of bylaw number 120-2025 currently includes, a standby attendance fee applicable to firefighters, providing standby coverage at public fireworks displays, demolition derbies, and similar community events charged at full cost recovery based on hourly wages, benefits, and associated public works department materials. And whereas council has determined that it is in the public interest to remove the standby attendance fee from Schedule B in order to support our local service clubs and facilitate community events within the municipality of North Perth. And whereas the Municipal Act 2001 SO 2001 C25 as amended grants council the authority to amend municipal bylaws, including fee and charge bylaws as deemed appropriate, now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth hereby directs staff to prepare an amending bylaw to bylaw number 120-2025 to remove the standby attendance fee from Schedule B, Development and Protective Services fees, specifically as it relates to staff standby coverage at public fireworks displays, demolition derbies, and similar community events. And further, that such amending bylaw be brought forward to council for consideration at a future meeting. Councillor Duncan, I'm going to assume you're the mover since you brought this to the table. Can I call for a seconder? Councillor Nordum will second that. Thank you. All right. Councillor Duncan, do you wish to offer some comment?
Thank you. I think the notice of motion is fairly clear, and the reason I brought it forward is that it seems we live in a more burdensome society for all of our service clubs when it comes to holding their events and costs with those events. And I just think that the council could do this as a gesture of good faith to help support those service clubs because they support our community. So that's why I brought this forward.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Duncan. I think a response from staff might be appropriate. Mr. Romani is moving, so Mr. Romani, I think it might be you.
And thank you, Mayor Kaysenberg. Staff certainly acknowledged the motion as far as supporting local service clubs and so on. Just from a policy perspective, we just wanted to caution the donation policy is currently in place that in this way, amending the fee is indirectly providing relief for service clubs, where our donation policy, states that we won't provide funding for that. I just wanted to highlight for staff's, for council's information, but however, if council does want to proceed, we would just caution with the amendment. We would recommend that it be not remove the fee entirely, but we would exempt local service clubs, nonprofits, charitable organizations, and we would leave it in place for-profit organizations. That would be our recommendation if council wants to proceed with that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Romani. If we were to pursue the proposition that you mentioned, that would require, I assume, the resolution to be altered to some degree, unless you want to take note of that and bring that forward in an amending bylaw.
Through Mayor Kaysenberg, we did prepare some wording that we can throw up on the screen, or if council's comfortable with that direction, just looking to see if we would want that in writing, or when the amendment comes, we can amend it accordingly, reflecting that comment I made earlier.
Okay, I don't want to jump ahead of council's process at this point. Let's just see that play out first. All right, colleagues, further comments, questions? You can see the staff has given us something to think about, certainly on this matter. Councillor Rothwell.
Thanks, Mayor Todd, and thanks, Councillor Duncan, for bringing the matter forward. Can you, perhaps staff can provide the information in terms of previous to our current bylaw, was that practice in place through our previous bylaw, written or otherwise, that there was no standby fee charged?
Ms. Little, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Rothwell, this was brand new as part of the fees and charges that was approved for 2026 by council.
So previous to this current bylaw, these standby charges did not get tacked on to the bill of those who are, okay.
That's
you.
correct.
I just want to make sure I understood the intent there. Mr. Rothwell, go ahead.
Just further, I understood that was the case, and I could be wrong, but I can't recall. I mean, there was plenty of conversation around budget. I just can't recall a specific conversation around this piece. I'm not saying it was slid in or anything else. I'm not saying that. I just don't recall that we at council had conversation about this piece. And if we didn't, then that's the reason why we're having the conversation now, I presume. But going forward, I think it's fair that that we should have those conversations to make sure that everyone around the council table is aware. I may be the only one out that can't recall the specific conversation, but it would be appropriate if we do have that conversation going forward for any such thing. Thank you.
I think, as we make changes that reflect policy changes, that should be highlighted to us for sure. I think that's a reasonable request of this council. Colleagues, any further discussion? Councillor Andreessen.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Kaysenberg. I appreciate Mr. Romney's proposal around the consideration of these charges being applicable to profitable events or businesses perhaps. And I just wondering what the debate with council would be around that as well.
Okay. Colleagues, do you have an opinion about whether we should proceed with the sort of not-for-profit community aims exemption, but leave in place a provision that for-profit businesses would pay these costs? I'll remind, and I do it only in the interests of making sure that we understand this, that if the organizations are not paying for it, it doesn't change the fact that firefighters are being paid by the municipality, and so therefore the taxpayers are paying for it, and we have choices thus, right? Anyone wishing to proceed differently than considering the resolution as it stands? Do we want to inject the for-profit item into this? Councillor Anstead, looks like you're ready.
Thanks, Mayor Kaysenberg, through you. And I guess I just want to understand, Ashton, when you say for-profit, is this they're making $1 or they're making $1,000? I just want to be clear.
I would play it the reverse if they're not a nonprofit, local service club, or a charitable organization. Anything else outside of that would be applicable.
Okay, so we have a provision that is proposed by staff. Are people comfortable with that provision? Councillor Duncan, the mover of the motion, is nodding his head yes. I see a few other heads nodding. I see a thumbs up from Councillor Nordum. So it seems like people are willing to proceed down this path. Any other comments before we consider whether we need to tweak the language in the resolution? It sounds like staff may have something for us that the clerk could bring up for us. Did you want to do that, Lindsay?
Through you, Mayor. Yes, we have the staff proposed wording on the screen here. So just would look at the second last clause here. We've added in some bold wording here that bylaw number 120-2025 would exempt community-based nonprofit organizations and registered charitable organizations from the standby attendance fee within Schedule B.
Okay. Fair enough. Councillor Johnston.
I agree 100% with it. But my question is do we need to make it a smidge tighter? Are we going to get the, instead of a business coming to town to have a demolition derby, are they going to use the guise of the Barrie Lions Club that is not a local community? So do we need to make it tighter on the word community-based? Just asking, just want to make sure before we pass it that we don't have somebody coming from another jurisdiction claiming to be a service club and wanting it for free. Just want to question it. I agree 100% charging businesses. I just don't want to see us get caught not charging someone that is not from the area.
Staff comment?
Yeah. Through Mayor Kaysenberg, I think we can probably insert the word local community. Or North Perth. That's a better one.
I suppose my only hesitation, there's sort of like, my gut's twinging just a shade at that, because then you may get so tight that someone, if there was a not-for-profit organization like the Alzheimer's Society, which has a national presence, and perhaps doesn't have a chapter-based organization, and I don't know that's the case. I'm not saying that about the Alzheimer's Society. But like, they may have local volunteers who run an event. They run a wonderful walk in May, for example. But they may not be considered strictly a North Perth charity or not-for-profit because they don't have local structure or the like. So I urge us to be cautious about thinking about the wording on that one.
And my intent is not to make it too tight. I just don't want to see us get taken over this. So I'm sure that there is some sort of wording potentially that's out there that would make it tight but loose. And I'm looking at all
You sound like a politician,
all the
sir.
expertise at our table sitting here that I'm sure they can come up with something. I don't know, but that's my intent.
Right.
I just don't want to see us, I don't want to see the policy abused.
Right. The question is, what's the sort of purity test here around whether it matches the local character, right? So, Mr. Romani?
Yeah, through Mayor Kaysenberg, I think when we bring forward that amending bylaw, we'll try and make, yes.
Come up with something that might work.
But I think staff understands the intent, and then we'll work towards that amending bylaw.
Okay. Again, I remind, it's just, we have to be very conscious about it, that we will let the taxpayers pay for these services. That's our choice, right? Okay, as long as we understand. Any further discussion or debate? We're going to, I think, adopt or look at considering at least the resolution that Ms. Klein has on the screen for us. If you could make it nice and big for my squinty eyes here. Okay. So, CO Snell, do you have any comment? You look like you had a comment.
Yeah, just, President's procedural, I just think the mover and seconder should be
Checked
either
with.
friendly amendment or.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. How are you feeling about this at this point?
I agree with the amendment.
Okay, and who was the seconder? Councillor Nordum?
Yep, I'm also good with the amendment. Maybe another word for North Perth or local is regional, then maybe that's kind of a loose but variety, so. Anyway, thank you.
Actually, there may be some benefit to what he said in that most of the large charitable organizations, if you were to look at heart and stroke or arthritis, or they consider themselves organized in regions. And so that might give the leeway around an exemption for any of their activities. So that might actually be useful. Everyone still okay with this? Do we want to try to put North Perth? Yeah, regional. I think we understand the intent at this point. Let's just move forward, right? Councillor Rothwell, do you have a
Thanks very
proposition
much,
here?
Mayor Todd. Just the issue that we're talking about, it's going to your point, it's the taxpayer will be paying the amount. I frankly have no idea how much this amount would be. And presume, I mean, obviously it's based on the number of events that are held annually, and I presume our staff might be able to provide that. I don't expect it at the drop of a hat, but I have no idea in terms of what that amount would be. So on that basis, I would like to suggest that we may want to defer so we actually have an understanding about what that amount is. Thank you.
Okay, so let's turn to the treasurer first, perhaps. If we look back over, and I don't know if you've done this modeling, but if you look back over the last few years, like how many events do we have of this scope? Maybe okay, Chief Pape might know the answer, and what then might be the cost?
Through you, Mayor Todd. Right now, our two main users would be the Agricultural Society for their demolition derby. So that event is typically about a 3-hour window where they're requesting standby coverage. Sometimes that coverage is required by their insurance. Okay, so they have to have us there. The second event they have is their fireworks demonstration, which is the same as the Atwood Lions. So we'd have 3 events that would call on us to do this. Each of those events, we're looking between 3 and 4 hours of a standby crew of 4. And actually, the fee that we are proposing is $40 per hour, which does not cover our truck fees either. This is only personnel, and we are paying that out to the firefighters. What has changed is that we used to have volunteers from the fire department who would take these things on a voluntary basis. Firefighters don't do that anymore. And so when they attend these things, there is a very real wage cost associated with it. So that's why that was changed this past year.
Can I just clarify, the $40 per hour is for the group of 4, or is it?
40 per firefighter.
Per fighter.
And
Okay,
a
thank
crew
you.
of 4 is considered minimum staffing as industry standard.
Okay, so we're talking $640 across 3 events is what I'm hearing.
Okay, so each hour would be $160.
Yeah.
So 4 times 40, and so if you're having a
Yep.
4-hour event,
I'm
4
with
times,
you.
good.
I'm doing that
And so
math.
then the 3 events of that.
$2,000 is the net impact across the year, potentially. Colleagues, does that change anything? All right, okay, so thank you. We had this moved, we had this seconded. It was gently amended in a friendly way that the mover and the seconder were good with. Do we have any more comments? Let's have the vote. Councillor Andreessen records a manual in favor vote. And with that, that is carried. Okay. So staff are so directed to bring back a bylaw that respects and tries to figure out the regional North Perth thing. How's that? All right. This is the opportunity, if any councillor wishes to issue notice of motion and wants leave to do so, this is your opportunity. Next meeting, anyone? Okay, let's move to item 14 on our agenda. Are there any announcements that would be a benefit to our community or that reflect well on North Perth at this time? I'm not seeing that. So we do not have a closed session planned for tonight, which means we can skip past item 15 and 16. That brings us to item 17 on our agenda. Council, as a mandated good practice, acts near the end of its meeting to confirm all of its actions and business of its meeting through what's called the confirmatory bylaw. I'll read the enabling resolution for our confirmatory bylaw tonight as follows. Bylaw 51-2026, being a bylaw to confirm generally previous actions of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth, is hereby passed. Can I call for a mover? Moved by Councillor Rothwell, seconded by Councillor Anstett. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. And colleagues, I can certainly confirm that there was nothing on tonight's agenda that I'm going to issue a veto for. So I will fill out the appropriate paperwork to that end this very evening. Councillors, we've completed, therefore, the deliberation and taken action on the business that did come before us tonight. It's appropriate for us to consider adjournment as follows. The council meeting adjourns at 8:27 p.m. to meet again for general council business on Monday, July 22nd, isn't it? Mine says June 20th for some reason. We're not going backwards in time. I don't want to do that. It's July 22nd, right? At 7 p.m. Can I call for a mover? Moved by Councillor Johnston, seconded by Councillor Andreessen. It's not debatable. Let's have that vote. And that is carried. Colleagues, I think if I were to move backwards in time, I would choose a very illustrious date and perhaps not that one. We are essentially adjourned until Monday, July 22nd, 2026 at 7 o'clock.